Welcome to another episode of the OYNB podcast series 3. Today we are joined by a true authority in the personal development realm. Ollie Ollerton is a UK Special Forces Operative, best-selling author, star of hit television series SAS, Who Dares Wins, and founder of Breakpoint, where he provides leadership and development courses to the corporate and public sector that leverages the Special Forces mindset. Ollie has seen the world's harshest environments, fought in war zones, and emerged from the darkest of personal struggles. From the battlefields to the boardrooms, Ollie is on a mission to improve mental and physical toughness. Join us today as we explore Ollie's story of resilience and transformation, how he empowers others through his powerful mental strategies, and how he's inspiring others to push the boundaries of human potential. And not only that he considers taking a break from alcohol to be the first step to getting that mindset. All right, let's welcome to the show, Ollie Ollerton. Ollie, so good to have you back on the podcast. How are you, my man?
I'm really good, Rory. It's been a long time.
How long has it been?
So much has happened.
Years since you were beasting me around the countryside.
You know what? I often forget about that. I bet you don't.
I do remember how much I was whinging.
Oh,
It was the being gagged, bagged, taped, and listening to death metal, which I think was the high point. In that enclosed whatever it was.
Absolutely.
So, Ollie, why don't you give us a little bit of background in your own words? I mean, it's been a long time since you've been on the podcast, and I'm sure lots of new listeners. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, my name is Ollie Ollerton. I came from the shadows to the spotlight in 2015 on a hit show in the UK called SAS, Who Dares Wins. So, to that end, I'm a former UK Special Forces soldier, and obviously the show was focusing on the mindset and the lives of Special Forces soldiers. That kind of leap into the spotlight has given me some amazing opportunities. Although celebrity, I still am not at ease with that term. But it has given me what I wanted, and that was a voice. And I feel that from the opportunity of being given that gift, which it was a gift, and still is a gift, I feel I've got a duty to change as many lives as possible through my own experiences. So that's what I set out to do. I've got a company called Breakpoint, which really, if I had to say in one line, it changes the way people think.
It does.
Yeah. Literally. Although it has changed a fair bit since those old days. So, and obviously from that exposure again, I've written 5 books, and I see every opportunity as a platform to influence and inspire people to really adjust to positive change.
Amazing. And that you exactly have been doing. So to go back and give a little bit of context as well, from my part here, I think I saw you post on Instagram that you were thinking about doing. Well, actually, it's not true. One of our members, one of your Nobia members, commented about your post on Instagram about you thinking about going alcohol-free. And that's when we really kickstarted a conversation going. And back then, well, for a little while, you were helping us. You were raising awareness about OYNB and doing some awesome things like that. And myself, Mr. Andy Ramage, and my wife, Jen, I think it was just the 3 of us.
Yeah.
We decided to come down onto one of your Breakpoint days. What were those? What were those days about?
Well, to cut a long story short, when I first came back to the UK battered and broken, and realising I needed to change, although I hadn't got a grip on my drinking. I did the first biggest step, and this is what I tell a lot of people that say the same to me. One of the biggest steps you can take is the fact that you become aware that it is an issue, drinking. And so when I came back to the UK, I locked myself away, and I really started to remap who I was. But back then, I didn't really ever believe that I could ever stop drinking. It was such a massive part of my life. You know, it was quite incredible. So, and going back to the sort of face-to-face part of the business was the fact that, you know, I'd locked myself in this house, away in this house, and I was doing all kinds of things, practices and things that I didn't know whether they worked or not. It was quite interesting because I do talk about this, the power of visualization and everything, which I'm a massive, massive believer in. And my visualization every day in that house, Rory, was to have a business that took corporates and basically gave them a special forces experience. And that was actually a vision. I'd actually just come back from Australia. I was actually working for a mining company, and I was flying across this open expanse. And I looked out the window and I saw it. And I saw all these corporates running across this open ground, you know, on an escape and evasion type exercise. And I got so excited on this plane. I was off.
Does that include Morag from accounts?
Yeah. Yes. I got so excited, and that was the seed that was sowed back then. And then I came back, and my visualization every day was to do that. You know, so I take corporates, put them through a special forces experience, so that they could get a look at themselves from the inside out and break down the facade and all that kind of thing. And I did that every day. I visualized that every day in my meditations. And I also visualized about being on stage every day. And I went into that visualization in so much detail that when I was on stage, I could feel the shirt on my back, the shoes on my feet, the expensive watch on my arm. And I lived and breathed it through all of my five senses every day. And then at the end of 3 months, when I was just about getting frustrated, just about to throw in the towel and say, this stuff's a load of mumbo jumbo, you know, woo woo, whatever you want to call it. That's when the phone rang. And the phone, and that phone was Channel 4 basically saying, do you want to do, would you like to be involved in a show that takes people and puts them through a special forces experience? It was exactly the blueprint. Exactly the blueprint. So really that's how it took shape.
They called you out the blue? Why did they call you out the blue?
Well, basically it was through Foxy they called. So they spoke to Foxy. Foxy and me had reunited after 13 years apart. And, you know, I told him my ideas. You know, Foxy at that stage was kind of very much a silent partner, Foxy. But, you know, he was kind of invested in the same ideas. But then, you know, I actually, 2 days before that phone call happened, I shouted at the top of my voice in this house because the seed of self-doubt was starting to eat away and say, you're wasting your time. You know, everyone's laughing at you, blah, blah, blah. The 1,000-person audience is laughing at you, all this and the other. And I shouted at the top of my voice, just give me something. I wanted the phone to ring or something to happen. And then nothing happened at that moment in time. But 2 days after, Foxy phoned me and said, hey, you know that idea you've got for Breakpoint? Would you consider doing that on TV? And that was the call. And basically, Channel 4 have been looking for former Special Forces soldiers to do this show with. So, you know, for me, that was a special moment. And the hairs, every time I tell the story, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up as they did when that phone call came in.
Yeah.
People say, you know, when weird stuff happens, I've removed that word weird and I've removed the word coincidence.
Exactly.
Because it's not weird and it's not coincidence. You know, it's like this is synergy.
We've branded it the OYNB magic, so that we can just talk about it on a regular basis. Because the serendipity shows up, the person calls, the thing happens, and everyone's like, "Oh my good Lord, that's unbelievable! I can't believe that." So it's no, it's just the sign you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I really believe, you know, a lot of people think, oh, I've got to line up the opportunities. The opportunities are already lined up. It's you that's got to line yourself up for you to see them. And that's exactly what happens in that moment. Because as soon as I started investing in me and really started to look after myself, mind, body, and nutrition and everything else, that's when those opportunities started showing up.
Yeah.
You know, you know, and it's quite incredible. And once you start to realize that, once you get a taste of that, it's like, it's all you need for that to be absolutely contagious. You can't have enough of it after you know that stuff works. It's like, it's free, but it offers you the biggest reward ever. So anyway, the fact of the question was, going to your question, was the fact that that's where the courses were born from. The fact we were on TV and I was like, right, we need to start these courses. You know, and do this sort of Special Forces experience, very much like the vision I'd had. But the whole point of it was to tap into people's mindset, create a platform that 99.9% of people had never really experienced, so that we could create an area of, or feeling of vulnerability, which helps people bond when the ego's nowhere to be seen. When it's not, when the pressure's on, people start to bond and people start to get a true reflection of who they are, and that's what it was all created around.
It's an amazing experience, which we'll come back onto in one set. But I just want to go back to, because you said you're a massive believer in the power of visualization, and this is something we use in our programs and we talk about. And I know you were dropping in there some insights into how to do the visualization. But from your perspective, how does someone do this visualization? What's the actual practice that somebody should be doing?
Yeah, well, for me, I mean, you have to make it as real as possible. The thing is, if people have to start to understand, you've got the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is the blind master, but it needs to be convinced by the conscious mind, and it's no fool. So you've got to be extremely convincing when you tell the subconscious mind something has happened that hasn't really happened, but you want it to happen. So for me, being on stage, I had to put myself there. It had to be something I had to taste it in my spit. I had to hear it through all my, through my sight, my smell, my touch, my taste. Through all of my five senses, I had to create the moment as if it was there, and live every time just to get that feeling. And you're convincing the subconscious mind that is exactly where you are. And once you do that, that's when the opportunities start to really flow and start to become apparent. If people who are skeptic try and make sense of it, at the end of the day, it can simply make you take a left turn instead of a right when it's leading towards your opportunities. It's as simple as that. And people, meetings of people, random circumstances where you meet certain people. It's like for me going into that house, and people, I talk about that 3 months. It changed the vibration of the person I was. It changed the frequency of the person I was. And the person I was when I went into that house 3 months before would not have been in any circumstance or environment when that opportunity for SAS Who Dares Wins would have been presented.
Yeah.
But the person I became throughout that 3 months of really focusing on me, changing my mindset, changing my repeat habits, my past behaviours.
Patterns, yeah.
I'd really start to focus on a vision for the future. So, it's just extremely powerful. And this is, I think, for me, and this is obviously something you know too well, Rory, and it's the fact when it came to my drinking, I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a problem that was causing me to drink. And, you can't get to it's like a lot of people come to me for advice. It's a lot of veterans as well. And I always say the first question is, are you drinking? Because if you are drinking and you're consuming alcohol and you don't see that as something you need to address, then you're never going to get anywhere, because you can't get to the raw nerve of the issue. And that's what you need to clear the smoke screen. So it was a really important and powerful process for me. And I didn't stop drinking until it would be a year later, till I filmed the second series of SAS Who Dares Wins. But I was in battle by that time. You know what I mean? I was in battle. And when I say that, every time I had a drink, it was a battle. It was the regret, knowing I shouldn't be doing it, knowing I didn't have a healthy relationship with it, knowing it wasn't positively serving me. The battle was on, and it had been on for a long time, and it's taxing, isn't it?
Yeah, exhausting.
Yeah.
And so what do you think when you said it wasn't that alcohol was the problem, you had a problem? So what did you do to address the thing that was causing it?
Well, really for me, I needed to, unless we take directive action on something that we want in the future, we become a carbon copy of our past behaviours. And over a good number of years, I had adopted this whenever I wasn't working, just to consume alcohol. And if you take it back to the earliest days, from when people start drinking, it's to mask an emotion, isn't it? And it's the easiest go-to. For me, it was renting the personality when I was going out socially. It was having the confidence to be around women, especially when it came to intimacy. and that became, I don't really think I had a relationship with until my current wife where I had sober intimacy. And it's like every occasion in my past was just surrounded by alcohol, and that was created since I was a very young lad, So, to change those patterns, that becomes part of the program. And I say this to I do a lot of corporate work. It's no different. When you drive in a car, remember the first time you jump in that car and it's like mayhem, isn't it? You've got your indicators, you've got your mirrors, you've got other people on the road. It's absolute cognitive overload. And you think, how am I ever going to be relaxed doing this? But then over time, as you get used to doing that, because it's a repeat habit, it then gets offloaded into your subconscious mind, which basically makes it part of the program. And this is exactly the same with drinking, isn't it? You go to take the drink and it's a subconscious behavior or any kind of compulsive habit. You take the action, and before you know it, you're in a world of regret the next day, thinking, how did that happen?
Yeah.
It's part of the program. And it's like the first time for me when that changed was when I actually was, I stopped drinking before SAS Series 2. I thought I'm going to give it my best shot. And I wasn't the best before. I was never that confident when I was reeling from a hangover. I don't think anyone is really, but, or sometimes you're overconfident. But for me, it was like, 8 weeks leading up to and including the filming. And then Foxy saying to me, right, and I agreed with him, after the filming, let's get absolutely smashed. I believed that was going to happen. And it was the first time I can remember. It was like, I was about to fall into that program, which was, right, come on, the camera stopped rolling. Let's get on it. Massive rap party. Absolutely going mental. And for the first time ever, I took a breath. I took that breath and I pulled that behavior from the subconscious into the conscious mind and questioned it. And I questioned it and said, do I want to go there? And I started thinking, well, look at all the clarity. Look at all this. Look how good you're feeling. And I just breathed out and went, no. It was the hardest thing actually moving away from that and going to my room when I heard everyone else, on the lash that night getting on it. But it was the best thing ever.
Amazing. And so since then, you're alcohol free and that's it, you're done?
100%. I did relapse. I went back, because I got to the point where I thought, I'm missing out. We went to film over in Ecuador. Well, not Ecuador. This is when we're filming in Chile, actually. We had a really long stint because we had 2 lots to film. And then everyone was talking about the drinks we're going to have in between the 2 things. And I was like the odd one out. And I just went, you know what? I'm good now. I've controlled it. Anyway, that started me back on an 8-month journey of drinking. And the same things were just starting to occur. And I can always remember I went 8 months in and my wife, she wasn't my wife then, but she'd gone away with some friends. And I'd just come back from a recce for one of the series up in Scotland in Skye. And I can remember we'd been drinking all week, absolutely getting hammered. And I got home on the Saturday morning. I got home on the Friday night, woke up on the Saturday morning, house to myself, just me and the dog, slumped downstairs at like 9 o'clock. And I just flopped on the couch and I went, you know what? I've worked hard for the last week.
Fancy a beer?
Not even that at that stage, but I've worked hard all week. And you know what? I'm not going to do anything today. I'm just going to watch telly and do nothing. And I lay down, and it must have been a couple of minutes in, put something on TV, and my head then said, what are you doing? Mm. And my head just said, if you hadn't been drinking all week, you would be out there on the hills with your dog, enjoying this beautiful weather and doing something very different. And that was it. I just went, right, that's it. No more. And that was it.
Good for you. Amazing.
So yeah.
How long's that been now?
Well, that was back in 2018.
Good lad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've been kind of helping to inspire others to do the same. It's a feature in probably book 2 onwards. Have I got my timing right there?
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah. Actually, in my book 2, I think it actually says that I'd started drinking again.
Right.
But obviously that's not. But anyway, but the thing is, I mean, at the end of the day, the thing about drinking, I I'll not ever try and force or coerce anyone into stopping drinking. If someone wants to stop and they show a definite need to stop, then I will help them. But as you know, Rui, people have got to want to change. And if they don't want to change, then it will never happen. But, you know, if someone's willing to put in the time and effort and they recognize that there's no real benefit to their drinking and they need to stop, then I'll help them as much as possible. But when it comes to doing things on a public level, you know, I'm more than happy to shout to the rooftops about the benefits and the beauty of sobriety.
Good man. Amazing. And so let's go back a little step, because, you know, obviously this is one tiny element of what you're up to. In your books, you know, mindset is really something you are absolutely fanatical about, and helping people with that. So tell us a bit about mindset. What have you done around mindset? What is some of your latest thinking?
I'll tell you what, the biggest thing for me is, and I do focus on this because I feel I'm quite qualified to do so as well. And that is the fact that people need to start to become aware. I think it's a massive discovery when we start to become aware of our primal coding. And when I say that, that is the fact that there's no stronger driving force in each and every person on this planet than their desire for survival. Not how many followers they've got on Egogram, not how many, not the house they've got, not their KPIs at work, not, you know, none of that stuff. It's their desire for survival, and that is the subconscious behavior. Now, when it comes to that primal coding, it can have some quite negative effects unless we're aware of what's going on. Now, when I get people to say, just imagine you go to a networking event, and we've all done this, so see if this relates to anyone listening. You go and meet loads of people and you shake their hands and you get their names, and then you walk out the other side and you go, I've not got a clue what their names are. You know, if you met them 2 seconds later, you would not be able to say, bang, I know your name, blah, blah, blah. And the reason for that is because when you meet someone new, your mind is scanning for threats, and it's going through the thousands of different people that you've got in your database, the image you've got in your database, and it's adding that to an emotion, trying to add it to an emotion. When it can't find that picture to add to an emotion, you are on high alert. Names are absolutely irrelevant. So that's how strong that driving force is within each and every one of us. Now, also within that, the fact that the repeat habit loop, and I think this is really relevant when it comes to, especially when it comes to drinking or compulsive behaviors and habits, is the fact that our minds want us to do what we did yesterday and the day before that because it's kept us alive until today. It doesn't care if it's a good situation or a bad situation. Your mind is absolutely focused on repetition. You know, that really goes back to those very primal days. You're never going to remember all the nice fruits that you tasted. You're going to remember the one bad berry that nearly killed you and made you sick and could have killed you. And that is that primal behavior. No, that is why we are always looking for what could go wrong in everything that we do. There's absolutely no benefit when it comes to survival to be positive. So this is why we are so addicted to negativity. And also that repeat behavior, you know, it's really, you know, when you look at the whole programming thing, because when you're born into this world, you come with this default setting, and that is the survival instinct. That is your survival program. That's like you getting a brand new computer with no programs on it. That's the operating system it comes with. And then from the ages of 0 to 7, you are on record. That is where all your programming is done. And that's created from your environment, from your siblings, from your parents, some good, some bad, but you are on record. So basically that is your system. That's you getting ready for the environment that you're going to be living in. And then what that means then is we learn more in those 7 years than we'll learn in our whole lives. And that by the time you're 30, that is 95% of your daily behaviors. You only have 5% of creative bandwidth in your frontal cortex. So for anyone to think that, you know, for me, it was like, I was like, I knew exactly the road to change. I know exactly. Right. You're drinking, you're abusing yourself, you go on binges, you're doing this. It's not doing you any good. You've got a whirlwind of destruction behind you. Stop. But you can't, can you? You see, just because it's easy doesn't make it simple. So why is that then? Why can't we just stop then? And that is because it's part of the program. There's only 3 ways you can influence the subconscious mind, and that is, first of all, your the programming from 0 to 7. Second, a highly emotional impact, and that can be a positive thing, can be a negative thing. For me, 10 years old, being attacked by a chimp at the circus, that's another story, but that was a high emotional impact. That can be a positive thing also, like if you end up, married to the person that blah, 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 that kind of stuff. So it's positive and negative. And the third thing is practice, repeat. Practice, repeat, practice, repeat. They're the 3 things. That's how you influence the subconscious mind. And nothing in your world can ever change unless you change the energy of who you are. 100%. How we're programmed to believe is the fact that everything is external. Happiness, achievement, everything is external. It's an external fix. And that's, you imagine people, they want to start a business, they go out there, they get a loan, for a short period of time, it's going to be different. It's going to have changed. Your environment's going to have changed, but before long, you dovetail straight back into your old habits and behaviors. And it's the same with like starting a new job. Your job's, you're not feeling it at work. Nothing's happening. It's really good. You're falling out with everyone at work. You're falling out with your boss. Change job. Yep, you change job and then you're on best behavior. It's the same with any new relationship. And then before you know it, once the frontal cortex gets worn out because it's only 5%, you fall back into the 95% program, which takes you back to exactly where you were before. So that really is where all the work has to be done to change that subconscious programming. And I think if people just really started to understand of how the system works, people know how their phone works better than they do.
Yeah.
And it's like, but the thing is, what I say about the phone is actually designed from a human basis. It's like a phone works on frequency. It works on frequency, and in that frequency is information. The higher the frequency, the better the vibration. And people don't understand that this is who we are. We are energy, and everything around us is vibrating. I don't want to get too deep and scare everyone off, but everything in our world is vibrating at different frequencies. Everything has a signature. So once we start to understand and get into the operating system of who we are, I feel we can then really start to understand that we can change.
Yeah, fundamentally change rather than short term.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It goes back. Before you get into how, because I want to dig into that with you, I just want to reiterate, what you've said there it's music to my ears, because this is exactly the work that we get people to do in complete control. And our part of here is that this 0 to 7 is really under the word trauma, right? Big trauma, little trauma, but it's the things that you perceived as a child you didn't understand. You made some hard coding about yourself, and now they're running on our subconscious patterns every day, all day, in every area, our relationships, our business, how we show up, everything. And I think, you've just nailed that exactly on the head. And unless we address that core, and this is the thing that I feel regret about, genuinely, like I should be incredibly proud of the work that 1 Year No Beer has done, but yet I still feel regret. And that is because, in a way, getting somebody to stop drinking for a month or stop drinking for 3 months, I'm not going to get them to do that 95%, the real work. It's maybe chance that they're going to evaluate that. And that's something that I want to really change going forward. I know we've got that nailed down tight in complete control because we don't give people an opportunity. I talk to guys, business owners, execs, right, very successful people all day. And I'm like, you do realize that these patterns are running you. And they're like, well, I had a really happy childhood. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard that a lot, but I'm so sorry. But, it's the truth is that childhood is traumatic, and you have these decisions about yourself and they're controlling your behavior. So, love that. Love what you're saying there. Let's pause just for a brief moment. I just want to share with you some of the heartfelt feedback from our incredible Complete Control community members. Listen to this.
I don't know how I signed up. I think I just got an ad on Instagram and just got a whim, just hit the button and did a call and then signed up and didn't really consciously think much about it. And then after that, I was like, what did I just sign up for? Wait a second here. Like, far exceeded my expectations. I'm usually extremely skeptical, so I don't know how I even signed up in the first place, but whatever it was. So it's just amazing how like the transformation that I've seen, and even the drinking part is just kind of it was the Achilles heel, but it's kind of just the superficial problem. And it's like, once I kind of clear that up, there's so much more possibility. And the exploration discussions with Gary, with Candace have just been so powerful, and they both kind of focus on a different area. And then with Glenn kind of looking at my data, and with my cohorts or classmates, or, it's just been everything has just been so powerful and kind of supportive of, completing the whole picture of how I do this. So just really grateful and yeah. And also just feel more grateful, and not only just for all of you, but just in life in general. It's just a little bit more clarity and peace and calm and so forth. So
I am incredibly grateful for this entire program, everybody on this call, and everything that we were able to experience. I think that it delivered more than I expected. Honestly, I like I've said before, I've done a couple of like challenges and different things. And I think that this, beyond examining my relationship with alcohol and making, I think, pretty good strides in staying alcohol free. I think it taught me a ton about myself and how to like examine my habits and my thoughts and those kind of patterns and ways to approach the things that worried me the most in this experience have just been invaluable. I think I'm leaving feeling stronger in general, more self-aware in general, and just really more anchored in who I want to be and what my values are and how I can, take better steps to achieve those. So it's been fantastic for me. And then again, our team, I really appreciate all the feedback and support from every single person on this call, but my cohort as well. It's been great.
So I love everybody that I've met here. I have loved the program. I am not an emotional person like this, but this has changed my life. It has given me a life. And there's other things I need to do too. But I don't have to do alcohol anymore. So thank you.
It's been an amazing journey, and I appreciate the professionalism. Whenever I feel the stress, there's something that I can go back to everybody, and the sharing from everybody, and the professionalism of the program. So I loved it, and I've grown a lot. So, ups and kisses.
One word is transformational. That's a word that's been bandied about for decades, but in this, it is absolutely accurate. If I was to use one word, this was a great investment. It's not self-help, it's self-realization. It's super powerful, but it exceeded my expectations. Or maybe it was Sharon who said that. Or maybe I'm exceeding my expectations, and I like that.
The program has been I'm hugely grateful for the program. I think the journey for myself has been amazing. I mean, I remember telling, I don't know if it was Candace or Gary, the first 3 or 4 weeks of the program, I was like, I can't stop thinking about not drinking. It's in my head. Every day I'm thinking about not drinking. And it's like now I'm not even thinking about it. It's just like my life has sort of stepped on. I'm excited about the future. Things are looking good.
I just love sharing the things people are saying about our complete control program. Okay, let's get back into the episode. So in your understanding, how does somebody go about changing this subconscious programming?
Well, I really think, there's a lot of new studies out there. I mean, I I'm really intrigued by the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza and also
Totally.
Dr. Bruce Lipton. I think some of their stuff is absolutely incredible. Now, first of all, people have got to address that they've got to address their issues. If they can't address their issues, then they're going to just sit there and say, yeah, but I had a great childhood and everything was fine. It was all lovely and this, that, and the other. I think to get any kind of stability or get any kind of headway in life, we've always got to be aiming for something that's bigger. And regardless of where we are, it doesn't matter how financially stable you are. If we start to plateau, we start to get bored, we start to feel quite lacking in self-worth. And that's why, we always have to have something that's bigger than us. I mentioned before about how we change, the three keys to changing the subconscious mind. But really, for me, you've got to really start to understand what you want. What do you want? What's holding you back? And I think a lot of it is the fact you need to, for the first time for me, when I actually came back and I really did that work on myself, it was 2000, I started thinking about suicide and this, that, and the other. I never attempted it, but I just didn't see a way out. And I just, and really suicide is the path of least resistance. It's actually an easy way out. And it's never the right way. But for me, it was like, I started to think, well, why am I just getting a repeat pattern of the same? For the last 10 years since I've come out of the military, I am just going around in a circle, getting the same thing that's happened to me on a different scale, different places. I went over to Australia, into Iraq, into Baghdad, all over Southeast Asia doing stuff. And the same shit just followed me around. It was no different. It was just mayhem. So I started to think, why does that happen? And we've got to understand there's always wherever you're at, there's always an opposite. And I started to think, what am I doing at the moment? I hated everything. I hated my upbringing. I hated I hated the military. I hated everything. Worst of all, I hated myself. But the more we focus on anything, the bigger it becomes. So for me, I started to think, what's the opposite of what I'm doing then? I started to think of a visualization of what do I look like? What does the person I want to be look like?
Yeah.
And once I created that vision in my head, I then did something more powerful, and that was add emotion. What does it feel like to be that person? So every time I had those negative feelings and thoughts in my head, well, they obviously start with thoughts first, I would then change that up and start to visualize that person. And yeah, it is difficult, especially sometimes when you're really low, but I would always make sure that I spent time focusing on that person.
Did you write it down? Did you?
Yeah, I did write it down.
Work from.
Yeah, I
find if I go to, if I haven't prepared, if I go to visualization, like 150 times out of 100, it will be very different. And there's it's whatever random.
Sometimes it's too noisy, isn't it?
Yeah, too noisy.
Yeah, it's too noisy. And I actually made a contract, an official contract, and I wrote a contract out to myself that I would repeat every day. And this is really when I went into that house. And the focus, the most important project was me, and that's not changed since. And that was really every day I went through that mind, body, and nutrition. And I did stuff like I wrote it down on a contract. I would read that every possible time I could. And the real test for me was I can remember I said, right, go and look at yourself in the mirror and read that out. And I could not do it. I went to the mirror and it was like, I laughed at myself. Not laughed, I was embarrassed. I went, no, you look stupid. You think we've got this 1,000-person audience that's critiquing, it's just your ego. And then I sat down, I can remember sitting down and thinking, if you can't tell yourself what you want, how can you ever expect to achieve it?
Yeah.
Really, that was it. It was like starting to visualize on what I wanted to be. So, and then really it's about taking positive direction. You can't outthink a negative thought. If you've got programming that's been going on for years, you can't sit there and outthink that. You've got to take action. So we had to take it from an emotional desire and start to write down. And for me, it was about having a goal system. It was 12 months for me. I actually got a CD. For the people that don't know what a CD is,
most of my podcast listeners will, including a tape.
I actually wrote it. I wrote it out. There are two things. I actually drew around the CD and I split it up into the hands of a clock. So you had all the hands, and basically at the top I put Breakpoint, and then every month of that clock I put something I needed to achieve to get to my 12 o'clock position.
Mm-hmm.
12 months, for me, the first one was to control my drinking. Didn't believe at that stage I could do that. So really, it was that step-by-step process, and it was like really starting to have a roadmap to that change. And I think that's the only way we need to do it. We can do it, and you've got to make sure that you've got a strong enough why, because if you don't, you will not be able to put up with the discomfort of change when you go back into that repeat habit loop. So really, it's just creating a desire, and you've got to be selfish as well. You don't do it for other people. It's really for you. It has to be for you, and really start to build that roadmap.
Super powerful, super powerful. And I love how you put, I mean, it really is. Alcohol it just fucks everything else up. So if it's in a place where it is out of control in any shape of imagination, then it's going to be having a significant limiting fact on all of these bigger goals, all of these bigger plans, all of these bigger dreams and things like that. So what are all the things you're up to? So you're doing some corporate work at the moment, which is a main focus.
Yeah.
What other amazing things you're doing? If somebody wanted to dive into one of your books, which would they go for first? The most recent one sounds like it is fairly encapsulating.
Yeah. First of all, I want to go back quickly because one thing I forgot to say to you. One thing I'll say about creating change is we can't go back to fix a broken or a bad habit, but we can create something that is stronger and more powerful that really takes us away.
More positive. Yeah.
More positive, and it becomes a lot more powerful than everything else. So, but to go back and try and address the issue, that doesn't work.
So it's not about breaking bad habits. It's about building positive ones.
Building something that's more powerful and you're more passionate about. So So when it comes to the books, I mean, I bought the most recent one was How to Survive Almost Anything. So there's pretty much all the stuff in there around, every kind of event you can imagine, from getting caught out in a really bad situation where you're in the cold or in a hot environment or whatever, basic survival skills, this, that, and the other. But the real focus on that is your mindset. The best weapon you've got in a survival situation is your mind. So, really for me, that was the focus of that book. People getting their heads into the fact that it doesn't matter what the scenario is, you've got to get your head sorted out. And if you haven't got your head sorted out, any situation will batter you. Basically,
you will be compromised.
Yeah, but for me, it's I'm thinking of self-publishing my future books.
Had enough of the publishers.
Yeah, because at the end of the day,
the publishers aren't listening because they paid nice
narrative. They want to control the narrative, and I want to be able to speak my mind. You know what I mean? It's like I can remember when I went to my publisher, it's like my passion is really about self-development books. And at the end of the day, they're like, well, there's so many out there. And I'm like, I don't care. They're not for me. And it's my perspective and everything else. So for me, it's like, I want to go out there and do some self-published stuff and look at, a book. The other things I'm doing at the moment. So I've got we've basically launched an app now because, we're doing our sort of face-to-face events. It was the fact that we couldn't scale up. Everyone would see the bloke off the telly. So really it's about creating this app that we put into corporate organizations that it's all linked to AI, so all my content it consumes. So that's really exciting. I'm doing climbing Everest next year in April. So really for me, it's about, there's so many people out there that try and be an influence and they're still banging on about the benchmark of the past. This is what I did 20 years ago. What are you doing now? That's very commendable about what you did 20 years ago, but what are you doing now? And I think it's important that if you are going to go out there and inspire people and being motivating people and everything else, that you've got to be doing the work. So for me, the stuff about sobriety, and every time I speak to anyone about sobriety, it's like, are you still doing that thing? And I'm like, what do you mean still doing? No, I gave up drinking. It's like,
you mean, yeah, exactly. The thing you're doing. No, not doing that thing.
The thing you've just taken a holiday and you're just going to end up, I've given up that. I'm drinking again now. So for me, it's about pushing that message out there. It's really important.
completely. Well, you and I are fully aligned on that one for sure. Let's compare it for a moment to the drunken night out, where you can say the same thing again and again and again and again and again, and then the following day the person still have no recollection of what you've said. And that's a bit like what happens if somebody comes to you saying, I need help, but I'm still drinking. And you're like, look, at the end of the day, I'm just going to say the same shit to you, and you're not going to listen to me because you're stuck in this loop of needing alcohol, of numbing out, of everything else. So let's address that bit first, because it literally opens up the doorway to everything else. Yeah. You're sitting here saying mindset is the most important thing. Why do you actively want to take something which is going to destroy that? At every step, it is going to negate any kind of control over a strong mindset, because it's the world's most powerful depressant, readily available, right? Yeah. This on the bottle. This is going to make you have anxious and depressive, possibly even suicidal thoughts. Yeah. Why do you take that? The issue is it's so prevalent in society, right? It's so normalized, it's so prevalent, you can throw these constructs around it. But you're doing something awesome to inspire some more people.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is really the focus of me being on here with you, Rory. So
tell me.
We'd not spoken for a long time, and I thought I need to get in touch with Rory because he was at the start of my journey and et cetera, et cetera. But so basically we have come up with an event. We've been very conscious about the amount of people now signing up for Dry Jan, and I know there's the Sober October and everything else, but Dry Jan is really the big one. It's a chance for people to give their minds and their bodies a break from alcohol, and a number of people do choose to carry on that journey after they've actually gone through Dry Jan. They feel the benefits, and I think that's the thing as well. It's like you can't sit here and actually talk. You can't sit there and convince someone that drinks constantly that's part of their lives of the benefits of not drinking. People have to 100% experience what that feels like. And it's not the big scary road that, what's going to happen to my life. I'm going to have no friends, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. It's absolutely amazing, but they have to experience that. So anyway, Dry Jan coming up this year. And we really wanted to do something in that space because I've always been conscious that it was so important for me when I gave up drinking that I needed something, a hinge pin at the end to actually achieve something at the end. Something at the end that was aiming for. When you don't have something you're aiming for, you can get lost in it. You know what I mean? You
sidetracked all over the place.
Sidetracked, distracted, and before you know it, you're back to square one. So really, for us, we created a thing, and it's the same place that you went, Rory, for your experience with Breakpoint.
Ah, very cool.
That's the birthplace of Breakpoint, which is a place called Pippinford Park. We're doing a 10K. So basically, throughout the month of January, we are guiding people. We're holding their hand, if you want to call it that, and helping them through January, but giving them something at the end of Jan that they can achieve. And that is a 10K race. Now, we're doing that physically in Pippinford Park in East Sussex on the 28th, I think it is, of January. Have you got a calendar there? I think it is the 28th.
I almost have a calendar here. I will do. Yep.
Let me say, because I need to get that right if it's not.
I've got. I had the link.
January 27th. It is on January the 27th at Pippinford Park. But people can also sign up so they can do it virtually, or they can do it from their local area and 10Ks and really, show themselves that not only have they given up drink for a month, but they've got fit along the way. They've got their minds fit, they've got their bodies fit, and they will feel absolutely amazing. And maybe you might be that person who can't imagine life without alcohol, that gets to the end of Jan and goes, you know what, I'm going to carry this on.
That's it. Well, bring one of those people along with you. Because the thing about it is, Jan, for most people, has likely been depressing, avoiding social circles, hiding away, spending time on Twitter or X or whatever it's called, saying, this is so boring, not drinking, Dry January, can't wait for February. All of that rubbish.
Yeah.
And they've white-knuckled and held their way through it. And a big element of what they're missing is connection. Like, look at the work of Johann Hari, everything we know about addiction is wrong. The opposite of addiction is connection. And we need to go in search of more connection. So what's better than getting together with a bunch of people, having a run, which releases dopamine, celebrating the amazingness of Dry Jan and the wonderful work that Alcohol Concern are doing and the wonderful work that you guys are doing in conjunction with them. So yeah, sounds like an amazing thing to do.
Yeah,
I'm not going to promise to be there because, I don't live in the country. Otherwise, I would promise.
and where you live is hotter. Is that what you're trying to say?
It's hotter, warmer, nicer. It probably won't be raining that day.
we can zoom you in, literally.
We could do a virtual job from Mallorca. Maybe we can have our own Pippingford Park run in Mallorca.
Sure you will. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know what, we want to create a bit of a community. So at the end of the race, it's not just collect your medal or whatever and then go. We're going to have a bit of a community there. We're going to have some talks on some influential people there, and all the way throughout January, we're basically going to have podcasts, mentorships, training programs, everything. So the more you want to get involved, the better. And it's really exciting, and I think that'll be the first of many initiatives that we'll be offering to really start to affect change. I mean, really, for me, Rory, it's like, if I was going to give some, and we work with some big organizations, and we will be working with some, especially in you imagine the likes of construction. You imagine if they could get a grip on their relationship or the people that work for them, their relationship around alcohol, their organization would change overnight. I'm not saying everyone's got to stop drinking. I've just got, you created within that organization, you created for the majority something bigger than going out to the pub every chance they get, or at home cracking open a couple of beers or whatever. And that's really...
Yeah, well, this is exactly the conversation we're having. And it's not abstinence based because, I've done a lot of that for years. And I saw many people go back to problematic drinking. And so I was like, well, I need to help people in a more and greater way. And this is like the exact conversation similarly we're having with corporates, is to say, look, let's become preventative with people, right? Yeah. What people are looking for is to drink less. Mm-hmm. And I think taking a break in January is an amazing thing to do. But then let's not use that as an excuse to continue on for the rest of the year. Let's make sure that we reset it. And like you said, all the way through this podcast, it's about doing the work and getting people, inspiring them to do the work. So amazing good stuff you're doing out there. So just head to dryjanuary10k.org, dryjanuary10k.org, and you will find out all the details for the run. If you're not in the UK, I'm sorry. If you are in the UK, what's your excuse? Get down there, go and give it a shot, and meet lots of amazing people who are trying to change their relationship with alcohol, which is what this journey is about. Connecting with more people on a similar journey. And hopefully get inspired by some more speakers and amazing people like that who are going to be there. And Ollie's going to be there to high-five you all at the finish line. Aren't you, Ollie?
I'm actually going to do the 10K race as well. So
yeah. We're going to do it the fastest time of the day.
Yeah.
Then we're going to high-five everyone at the end.
I know all the shortcuts and know that place well.
Ollie, it's really great to have you on the show, and look forward to doing more wonderful things with you down in the future. Where do people go to find out more from you? We've obviously got dryjanuary10k.org for the site.
Yeah, and then my website, which is pretty much, we've amalgamated everything into our website, really. So it's all the W's, break, BREAK -point.co.uk, or just put it into Google, you'll find me. But or Ollie.Ollerton on Instagram.
Don't send them lots of DMs. You reply to them all, I know you do.
Oh, of course. I spend most of my nights doing that. Yeah.
Good lad. Thanks very much for coming on the show, Ollie. Doing the work you're doing.
Pleasure. We'll keep you posted, matey.